Good evening. Welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu Shom. On the program tonight, there appears to be an increasing sense that Pakistan is out of control as we speak. One could use the word anarchy and not really be exaggerating, because what we are seeing is absolute chaos in several cities in Pakistan after the former Prime Minister Imran Khan was forcibly removed from the Islamabad High Court by Pakistani paramilitary forces and taken to an unknown location. In the last few hours, fairly unprecedented scenes. Supporters of Imran Khan and his Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party have set, we are told, Pakistan radio offices on fire. They've forcibly entered some parts of the Pakistan Army's numerous facilities, possibly even the residence of the Corps Commander in Lahore. The situation is tense. It is spreading. We look at the latest developments in Pakistan, where this may be headed. We have a panel of guests from Pakistan, but right now there are reports that Twitter has possibly been blocked, or there are signs or signals that Twitter is going to go down soon in Pakistan. That's on the top of this program. There's a lot of footage now increasingly coming in from Pakistan. It's going to be a long night over there, it appears, from all senses. Next up on the show, and this is something that impacts lakhs of citizens across the country, a key report of the government on the process of India's energy transition, which calls for the elimination of diesel-driven four-wheelers as soon as possible, and says that there must be a ban on all diesel-powered four-wheelers in all million-plus cities in our country by 2027. Is this realizable? Does India have the political will to do this? What difference will it make? That's our second debate, and an important one at 1:30. But first, let's just bring you the very latest images that we are getting from Pakistan. And as I do that, I'm going to introduce our guests. Our first guest, Kaisar Mumtaz, advocate and leader of the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, and Dr. Tara Kartha joins us as well at this stage. And Ambassador Dilip Sinha too. Kaisar Mumtaz, what is the immediate situation?
Imran Khan, PTI leader, came to join proceedings in Islamabad High Court, where Ranger arrested him. There are a lot of violence created by the Rangers. It was all due to the PDM government, the Interior Minister, Rana Sanaullah, and
कैसर साहब ये बताइए, जो हिंसा है इस वक्त पाकिस्तान में कई शहरों में फैल चुका है, आप हमें बता सकते हैं कितने शहर में ये आप लोगों के समर्थक बाहर आए हैं और प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे हैं? इस वक्त क्या स्थिति है पाकिस्तान में?
Almost in all Punjab and some in Balochistan cities and some in Sindh province and all over the KPK, and the people came out from their houses and they shown their sympathy with Leader Imran Khan.
All right, so we'll just come back to you in a moment. I'm also joined by Dr. Syed Elahi, the former MP and Health Minister of Pakistan, a senior leader at of the PMLN. Dr. Elahi, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, sir, I can hear you very well.
Dr. Elahi, without getting into the politics of the moment, could you tell us a little bit of the condition in your major cities? We are seeing, for example, the Corps Commander's home in Lahore being raided by protesters. We are seeing protesters out on the streets of Islamabad, of Lahore, stone pelting officers of the Pakistani Army. People, protesters with lathis, with dandas going into them. What are you hearing right now?
Yeah, that's right. Because in fact now, recently, Mr. Imran Khan has distributed and announced tickets of Provincial Assembly of Punjab for Punjab. And there were roughly 275 candidates from all over the Punjab. So all those people who have been awarded tickets were basically directed to show of force. So that's why now you can see different processions in different cities of Pakistan. In Punjab especially, the candidates have brought their supporters onto the roads and they are protesting against the arrest of Mr. Imran Khan. And same is happening in different other provinces where his party workers and leaders are showing their resentment against the decision of his arrest. So that's true. Another thing is that because the workers and the leaders of PTI have been in protesting mode from many years, and especially from last 1 year, since Mr. Imran Khan came out of government, he was on anti-government campaign and his election campaign. So his party workers and office bearers, they were quite charged and organized to protest on different occasions at any time. So right now, this is what they're doing.
We are also told, and this is news coming in just now as we speak, that apparently Twitter has been blocked in Pakistan. Is this what you're also hearing, sir?
Yeah, I think there are different apps have been closed. So right now, even right now when I was trying to contact you, there was some problem in the signals. So that's why we are having an audio talk with you. Internet and few other facilities have been suspended in few cities.
Already internet. And sir, which city are you speaking to us from?
Sorry?
Which city are you speaking to us from? Which city are you?
I'm right now in Islamabad.
I see.
The capital of Pakistan.
Dr. Elahi, is there a sense that Pakistan might be headed to martial law?
I think right now, we can't say that right now, but if the conditions get worse, then there is always an option of martial law. And in Pakistan, you know, when things get worse, the only solution is martial law. Because in last 75 years, we had 3 martial laws. And I think once it happened in 77, then 99, when all the political talk and political parlays failed, and the political parties, they did not cooperate with each other, ultimately they ended up in martial law.
Okay. Dr. Elahi, just be with us. I'm joined now by Dr. Tarakartha. Dr. Tarakartha, how do you read the situation in Pakistan right now? It is progressively getting out of control.
Oh, it is definitely getting out of control. But the thing is, it seems to me that Imran Khan has been, this is very well planned. I mean, it's a kind of, he's been forcing this issue for the last few months. So the last thing that what we saw when he made that speech just as he was leaving for the Islamabad High Court was saying, arrest me now. You know, that was the kind of thrust where he was talking about the Major General from the ISI, they're going to kill me, they're going to murder me. So I am wondering if he's not, you know, because you can't go on protesting forever. You have to somehow bring things to a head. And that's what's happened. This is not, it's very well planned. It seems to me that way. But what the gentleman from Pakistan said is absolutely right. PTI workers are fantastic at protesting. Number 2, these are middle class. They're not all, there are a lot of, you saw women right in front in terms of the GHQ attack. There were women there. This is huge. This is massive. Let's see what martial law seems to be indicated.
Ambassador Sinha, your thoughts?
You know, this situation is quite unprecedented in Pakistan. A former Prime Minister getting arrested is nothing new. Imran Khan is the 7th Prime Minister to be arrested. But what is unprecedented is the people turning out in very large numbers all across the country, in all the 4 provinces. Never before have people come out in support of an ousted Prime Minister in such large numbers. So this is unprecedented, and it can't be entirely due to Imran Khan's popularity. I think it has also got a lot to do with the economic troubles of the country. People are extremely agitated over the economic problems. There is food shortage, the currency has fallen, debt repayment is a major issue. And in this situation, the people are angry with the current government, which is there now for almost a year. So this is a difficult time for the government. Martial law is obviously an option that is there. The fact is that there is also talk that there is division within the army. Quite certainly the outgoing DG ISI, whom Imran Khan wanted to retain, and was very unhappy at being removed. And then there have been allegations by Imran Khan against some army people. He calls up some dirty Harry who was trying to kill him. So there are allegations against the army as well. So the army also is under attack from the people. And Imran Khan's supporters have always been, well, there have been some middle class, but a lot of them have been riffraffs. Remember, his origin in Pakistan came from the support of the fundamentalist and terrorist elements. He was called Taliban Khan at one time. Later on in 2019, the army picked him up and promoted him, and then he became a selected Prime Minister of Pakistan. Then he fell out with the army. So what we have today is that Imran Khan's supporters, who are mixed with all the people who are disenchanted with the government and its economic policies, and his own supporters are all ganging up against both the government and the army. This is really an unprecedented situation, and we don't know how it will unfold in the country.
We've got Dr. Elahi on a live link at this stage. Dr. Elahi, this is possibly the worst possible thing that could happen for democracy in your country. Isn't that your primary concern right now?
I think, as I told you before, that it's the history of our country, that once the politicians, they go to the extents where they don't sit together, ultimately it ends up in martial law. So, but I think now, right now, as I told you before, Mr. Imran Khan has refused to sit with the present government or to have parleys with any other political parties or political leader in the country. So I think he was in his own way of defection. And I think now, as somebody was saying before me, that his followers and protesters, they were from last 1 year being trained or being practiced for this day of today. And from almost 1 year and 1 month, all of them are on protest. So today, when Mr. Imran Khan was arrested, all of them, they came out and they're showing their resentment in different areas, different cities of the country.
Okay. Dr. Tarakarta, again, you know, we've seen these crazy situations in Pakistan in the past. It's got a history of an association with the military. We've seen the military in power in Pakistan for decades, in different times and different periods. You know, I mean, how do you see this actually progressing? On the one hand, you've got an incredibly popular leader, Imran Khan, for right or for wrong. On the other hand, you've got scenes like this, the police clearly outnumbered, military facilities being stormed by these protesters. Does it not seem almost inevitable?
See, though I said that martial law seems to be indicated, the problem is that the IMF is already hesitant, not anywhere near giving a loan. On top of that, if you have martial law, you can forget about the loan. So there is a problem here. So see, that's why I'm saying this seems to me from here sitting to be very carefully thought out. They have no option but to go in for some form of government, cobbled together to get the crowds to sit down and to sort of disperse at least or lower the level of violence. Like we said, this is uncontrollable. Even the best of paramilitary forces and the Pakistani paramilitary forces have a lot of experience. Even they cannot control this crowd. It's not possible.
And this is footage from Faisalabad, which we've now got. Twitter is probably down at this stage. Islamabad, Lahore, Faisalabad, Rawalpindi. These are 4 places where, and this is apparently outside the ISI office in Faisalabad, is what we are told. Again, Dr. Elahi, this has the makings of a mass movement. It's not, political supporters. This level of people coming out, it just seems to be much more than that. This is not just limited to Imran Khan. It seems to be a much larger protest at this stage.
I think to some extent you are right, because this is not only pro-Imran Khan protesters. Many people, they take chance against different other things like price hike and dissatisfaction for the present government. So there are many reasons. So maybe many other sects of people and sections of different society are also participating in the protest. But as I was telling you, I am in Islamabad.
Yeah.
So that looks like a very organized protest, because the protesters, like 100 to 200 people, they are closing main roads and main squares from where they can stop the whole traffic. So it means they were well prepared and they were well trained to do all these things from before. And today they are successfully operating up the roads and to show their protest.
And we don't know any casualty toll or death toll at this stage, but vehicles have been set on fire. We've got footage of buses set on fire, tires set on fire in other areas as well. Again, Dr. Elahi, from your friends and supporters, what are you hearing in terms of the spread of the violence?
I think, as you said, because the exact number of casualties nobody knows, but other things, as you told, burning of tires, closing roads, pelting stones on the government vehicles, and this is all going on in different parts. And you know very well there are some areas which are very sensitive areas, like Quetta or Peshawar. So there are also different processions taking place.
Right.
And
Dr. Elahi, I'm just going to interrupt you for one moment, sir, because I've got a very close colleague, former colleague of mine, Munize Jahangir. She's a broadcast journalist with Aaj Urdu, one of Pakistan's finest journalists, joining me now. Munize, how far is this spread?
Well, it's very widespread, whether it comes to Lahore, Quetta, Peshawar, even Mianwali, as far as that. Most major cities in Pakistan, there have been protests. Most of these protests are, and the anger is really directed against the Pakistan army, and protesters have stormed, the Corps Commander's house in Lahore, the GHQ in Rawalpindi, and they have also protested outside, statues, etc. In Peshawar.
And Munize, who's in charge right now? Is there any political voice asking or urging calm?
Yes, there is. The law minister has just come on television and urged the people to calm down, and they've said that they should not be entering, private homes and setting things on fire. We just saw the protesters even, set on fire one of the interchanges on the motorway which connects Swat to Islamabad. Then we also saw the interior minister saying that they should not take the law into their own hands. There have been arrests, but by and large, police has stood by, even the army has stood by. And when we ask the question of the police, why is it that they are not coming forward? They are not keen to be seen to be, putting down protests in a violent manner. They don't want to be seen challenging the mob. And therefore, we have seen arrests, but not widespread arrests. There have been 5 arrests, for example, in Islamabad, and that too was early morning. So in different parts of Pakistan right now, the internet services are being suspended. Social media services are also being suspended. The protests are localized. I would not say they are as widespread. They are localized. Whether they will amount to large protests are gathered in the High Court here, and they are waiting for a pre-arrest bail. They are waiting for decision by the court. Islamabad by the judge so that Imran Khan be produced in court. They have filed a petition saying that Imran Khan was illegally taken away, and they filed something close to a habeas corpus petition, and they're waiting for the judges to resume the hearing.
Do we have any idea where Imran has been taken away?
Yes, well, Imran has been taken away by NAB, and there were medical tests that he was required to do, a medical examination by a 7-member bench of doctors, and that has been done, and now we are not sure whether he will be produced before the court or not, but certainly his party and the lawyers there have asked for him to be produced before a court of law.
And Munize, just in terms of the real concern over here for democracy in Pakistan, do you believe that it's almost inevitable that we'll see the army out on the streets sooner than later?
It's very difficult to say, Vishnu, in this country, but let's put it this way: the army has allowed the politicians to come into power, because it is now no longer acceptable for a country to have army rule in that way. And it may not go down well with international players as well. At the same time, whether it is Imran Khan or whether it is Shahbaz Sharif, they have toed the line of the military. And I don't see what will be the need for the army to really take over. They can, and of course, we have seen that in the past that they have, but it's not like the current government is at the time in any way challenging them. What is more on the cards really is perhaps an emergency, which delays the elections which are going to be held in October. And that is something that Imran Khan has been demanding, that the elections should be held before October, and he had dissolved two of the assemblies, the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and the Punjab assembly, in the hope that elections will be, and it will force the government to hold elections earlier. That has not happened. So it could be that there could be an emergency, and the current setup, under the law, the current setup will then continue for another year. But only a current government, a sitting elected government, can impose that kind of emergency. There cannot be any other emergency unless there is a takeover by the military. And that remains to be seen. At the moment, the government, at least, the government that is in charge right now, is in no way challenging the military.
All right, Muniza, thanks very much for speaking to us and sharing the situation on the ground over there. Thanks very much indeed. Just in the last 15 minutes or 20 minutes now, there's been information coming out of India's Defence Ministry. The Indian Defence Forces keeping a close watch on the situation in Pakistan in view of the developments there. A strong vigil is being maintained by forces along the line of control and the international border. Ambassador Sinha, all of this comes at a time when Pakistan has been stressed economically. They are surviving at this juncture on IMF loans. There are large, tens of thousands of people possibly out on the roads, different parts of the country. The army under intense pressure right now. What does this present situation mean for India?
I don't think it has any major implication for India. There has been speculation that in a situation like this, some elements in the army may try to create some disturbance on the line of control and then try and divert attention. But I think that's highly unlikely, though the possibility cannot be entirely ruled out. But otherwise, this problem is entirely an internal problem of Pakistan. I think even countries like China and America have washed their hands of it. It's a case of the current political leadership of Shahbaz Sharif not being able to get the people behind them in this period of economic crisis and mobilize them. The army being completely discredited because of all kinds of infighting, and even with Imran Khan. And Imran Khan's own supporters being basically rabble-rousers, which he started with. So in this kind of a situation, I think I would agree with Munisa Jahangir that the army would not like to take over directly. It will try and control the situation through the present government, possibly through an imposition of emergency, to at least bring the law and order under control. But I don't see that happening immediately because Imran Khan supporters are quite violent, and they will continue to take advantage
this
of
is footage coming in from Miawali. Ambassador, just half a second. We'll just try and play that clip out again. That looks like an aircraft which is on fire. This is footage which has come in from Miawali. I think that's a display. I think that's a display prop. It's not the actual crash of an aircraft, but this is a Pakistan Air Force plane model. I mean, it was actually a plane. It's on display in Miawali. Carry on, sir. I saw that footage. I was rather startled. Go ahead, sir.
Well, these are the kind of things that the government will use to impose an emergency, because symbols like an aircraft that is on display are highly emotional symbols of national prestige. And when protesters start attacking these symbols, then the government will be justified in stepping in and using force to control the situation. But I suppose the government will wait for a day or two to ensure that there is enough public resentment against the violence for them to step in and use military force to bring the situation under control.
Okay. Kaisar Mumtaz, final question to you. Al Jazeera reporting now that the Islamabad High Court has reserved its verdict on the legality of Imran Khan's arrest. How significant is this? I mean, they've not ruled either way.
The Chief Justice of the Islamabad High Court reserved his decision, and but still now the decision is not public. It's not public, and people of Pakistan are waiting that the Islamabad High Court must give its verdict, because the Imran Khan is arrested with
All right. Sorry, sir, we lost that line with you. But do stay safe over there. That situation quite bad. Let's just run through some of the footage that we are seeing right now in case you've just joined us. Massive protests all across Pakistan at this stage on a day when Imran Khan was pulled out of the Islamabad High Court by protesters, by the paramilitary forces who broke a part of this glass facade where inside which he was seated, pulled him out, pushed him around. They've arrested him, taken him apparently to an undisclosed location. Massive protests, and it would probably be said by more than just supporters of the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, which is Imran Khan's party. Protests in several cities right now. Several military facilities have been stormed by Pakistani civilians. Apparently, the residence of the Corps Commander in Lahore as well. ISI buildings in other parts of the country. Highways, parts have been set on fire, tires, etc. have been burned, vehicles have been burned. This footage is from Lahore cantonment that you see on your screen. It's going to be a long night in Pakistan. Will there be martial law? Will there be an emergency? Because at the moment, it appears to be descending into a state of anarchy. Welcome back. Up next on the show, and this is something that impacts lakhs of citizens across the country. A key report of the government on the process of India's energy transition calls for the elimination of diesel-driven four-wheelers as soon as possible and says that there must be a ban on all diesel-powered four-wheelers in all million-plus cities by 2027. Is this realizable? Does India have the political will to do this? What difference will it make? That's our second debate. We have a fantastic panel. But first, this is the key document, the page in that report that we're going to be talking about. What exactly does it say in terms of energy for surface transport? It says ban diesel four-wheelers in cities by 2027. It's a report submitted to the Petroleum Ministry by an advisor to the Prime Minister. Energy transition panel's recommendations are, as I mentioned, eliminate diesel-powered four-wheelers as soon as possible, ban diesel four-wheelers in cities with a million-plus population by 2027, promote electric vehicles as an optimal solution to shift away from diesel. There should be no diesel-powered city buses plying after 5 years, ban diesel buses in cities, only electric delivery vehicles should be registered from 2024, 75% of delivery vehicles should be all-electric in cities by 2033. Joining us now, Amit Bhatt, the Managing Director of the Indian Council on Clean Transportation. We're joined by Narendra Taneja, a leading energy expert, and R.S. Sharma, the former Chairperson and Managing Director of ONGC. Mr. Bhatt, let me come to you first. 2027, realistically, can we ban diesel vehicles off our roads?
Thanks a lot, Vishnu. I think it's a very important discussion that has come out from this report. I think the reason I would try to highlight is that we did some research to understand what is the health impact of transport vehicle exhaust. And our research found that there are almost 75,000 lives which are lost every year in India, which these are premature deaths that are directly attributable to transport vehicle exhaust. So the point is we have to reduce combustion in our cities, and we have to create a framework where transportation, road transportation in cities happens which does not include combustion. And that means we have to look at long-term vision of creating zero-emission transport, and battery electric is one, hydrogen fuel cell is other. But the other point is that if you look at amongst various fuel types, emissions are very high in vehicles that are run on diesel compared to gasoline or CNG. And therefore, as cities struggle from pollution, the question is what can we do to eliminate this? So absolutely, I think it's a good step. How do we realize is a big question mark, but we have to look at a situation where at least in transportation in cities, are not run by diesel-based internal combustion engines.
Arun Malhotra, the flip side of looking at this argument would be that we now have low sulfur diesel available increasingly across our country. Does low sulfur diesel, Bharat's stage 6 compliant diesel, actually make a difference to the point where a ban like this may not be required?
Well, the BS6 norms, the way they have come out, the BS6 phase 2 norms, which became applicable from April this year, the sulfur content has been reduced dramatically. But let me take the broader perspective that even we assume that we have to remove diesel from the country. If you look at the 3-4 segments, two-wheeler, three-wheeler, absolutely there's virtually the diesel is either there or not there at all. In take of passenger vehicles, the diesel contribution has fallen from 50% 5 years back to 18%. And probably it will fall sharper more when the new norms of the BS6 comes in. So I don't see any problem in this. But if I take into the area of buses and heavy commercial vehicles, there the challenge is 95% is in diesel and there is no clear alternative road plan in the next 4 years to complete it. The other point, we're talking of 50 cities being covered by it. And if you just take a state of Madhya Pradesh, and if you cover above 10 lakhs population, the 4 cities, Indore, Bhopal, Jabalpur, Gwalior, in a way you cut the lifeline of the state. So it basically means a ban on diesel vehicles across the country in 2027. Now, this, although the attempt or although the objective is laudable, it is not practical. We have also not really incentivized other alternative fuels which could have given a low carbon emission. The whole incentives in the FAME policy is on electric vehicles. There is no subsidy on hybrid. There is no subsidy on other also things, LPG and other areas, and also flex fuels. So effectively, I don't think we are prepared for it. So one segment clearly where there is no preparation, and I don't see the transition happening smoothly, is next 4 years. Second of all, last but not the least, the scheme which we had for scrappage, if we wanted to remove vehicles which are most pollutant, it's been there for 2 years, but the implementation has been very slow to say the least. So these are the challenges, the way I see it.
Narendra Taneja, I think, Arun mentions a very key point when he says that, look, it's all very well to focus on our cities, but if you look at buses and if you look at commercial vehicles, 95% or perhaps even more of that is diesel run. It's not physically possible to get those vehicles off our roads in a finite period of time. Our economy will come grinding to a halt. There is also the entire issue of the replacement of commercial vehicles with either petrol-powered vehicles, which is inefficient for the loads they carry, or electric trucks, which are now available but prohibitively expensive and with no infrastructure on the roads. So how do we actually deal with that?
Well, first of all, Vishnu, this is not a policy initiative on part of the government yet. It's just a study.
It's a proposal, it's a suggestion.
It's just a suggestion. So no policy initiative as such. I'm sure the government is going to study, is going to go through the interministerial, lot of questioning and investigations and all that before any policy initiative is available. And let's not forget that pollution and transport are a state subject. We are a federal structure. That means the various states also, they need to be a deep dive in terms of consultations and, the roadmaps and so on and so forth, which in a structure like ours is going to take its own time. So that's very important to underline. But when it comes to, petrol and diesel in particular, yes, levels of nitrogen, oxide is very high. In other words, it pollutes, no doubt about it. I mean, we have known it for now, since the invention of the combustion engine. It's absolutely nothing new. But the point is that when we talk of electric vehicles, first of all, batteries, infrastructure across the country, we have got 90,000 petrol and diesel stations across the country, 90,000. And the cities we are talking of minimum 6 cities across the country. And all the new expressways we are building across the countries, if you really have to basically, you're building this only for electric vehicles, electric trucks and electric buses and all that, where is the electricity is going to come from? We produce 67% of electricity in India using coal, which is a fossil fuel, the dirtiest fossil fuel, dirtier than oil, dirtier than gas, 67% globally. Roughly 70% electricity is actually coming from coal. Number two, the report also talks about natural gas. our dependence on imports for natural gas is roughly about 58%. 50%, 8% of gas we consume is imported. 86% oil is imported. 20% of coal is important. For renewable energy, so-called, solar energy, 83 to 86% equipments are imported, that too from China. So what happens to your energy security? So intent is very good. Excellent intent, no doubt about it. Who would not like to our cities absolutely clean, like you see in some places like in the Arctic Circle? Who would not like to do that? At least I would like to do that. But at the same time, can we afford to compromise with the economic growth? Can we afford to compromise, with the job creation? Can we afford to compromise India not being a $27 trillion economy by 2050? Look, Vishnu, you know geopolitics so well. If we don't grow at 7 to 8%, China is going to make our life hell. We got to understand it. So energy is linked to everything. Energy is 80% politics. Let's not forget that. So all these things people are talking about, clean air and all that. I mean, I lived in the West and, I'm there every month almost. We know that. They have energy transition will depend on geography. In Switzerland, in Norway, they are going to move faster. That's the language some people have started speaking in Delhi. Unfortunately, we are not Norway. We are not Switzerland. We are not Canada. We are a developing economy.
If we adopt that defeatist attitude, then we won't meet our climate change goals.
No, Vishnu, don't go to other extreme. You don't have to swing between two extremes. All I'm trying to draw your attention to is that how to build a way forward, not defeatist. That's unfortunate a person like you talk like this. Don't do that. Don't go to that extreme. I'm not saying it's either extreme north or extreme south. What I'm saying is these are the challenges in front of us. Now at the same time, intent is very good. We need to move in that direction. We need to move to the age of electricity. No debate on that. Question is how. Number one, states need to be involved in the planning. Number two, all stakeholders need to be planned. We need to build ecosystem first. Infrastructure feed, the car manufacturers, the battery manufacturers, the kind of ecosystem will lead to charge and all that. Vishnu, take an electric vehicle from here and go to Lucknow. Come back and talk with me. You will have to stop so many places today, even if you carry your own batteries and all that.
Let me just go across to Mr. Sharma. I'll try and come back to you in a moment. Mr. Sharma, the fact of the matter is that electric vehicles are very much the future, but when it comes to batteries, the cost of batteries is still so significant that the price of EVs is not, it's just not affordable. Is this a technology hurdle? Is this a hurdle because still we don't have enough people buying, let us say, EVs? Or how do we overcome this?
Vishnu, I feel Mr. Taneja has this part of the issue has answered very well. There's one dimension that has not been raised is that LNG trucking and LNG buses. In fact, under my chairmanship, a report was submitted on India Energy Forum platform in 2019, and we made a presentation to Niti Aayog also, the roadmap for gas-based economy to how to realize the vision of the Prime Minister to make it gas-based economy, take gas share to 15%. There are multiple recommendations were there, and there we quoted that in China, there are 300,000 trucks and buses running on highways on LNG as a fuel. So that is something intermediate fuel that is very much doable.
Okay.
That has not been, but whatever I glanced through this report, it's a very comprehensive report. I need to compliment those who have put in efforts to put down this report. Now there is a report by an advisory panel. It will involve, the consultation process by the stakeholders, and then the roadmap
so there'll be a decision.
Implementation.
There'll be a process of decisions. Mr. Bhatt, do you agree with the concerns that Mr. Taneja raises over here? I mean, it's common sense, a lot of what he says. But there are others who say that, look, if we don't pursue this aggressively, if we don't find the political will to actually make the changes, we can forever be talking about halfway steps. When do we actually start doing something substantive? We can't breathe in Delhi, let's face it.
Exactly. And I think, so a couple of things we have to realize very clearly, that with internal combustion engine, you cannot achieve climate goal, that's one. You cannot achieve public health goal, that's two. And you can't achieve the goal of self-reliance or Atmanirbharta because 90% of the petroleum you are importing from outside, right? So that's one point. The second point is, what is the future? Internal combustion engine is going to be a dead technology in next 15, 20 years. So if you wait for the world to move, then we will be left behind. So the point over here is that we have to first understand that there are serious health implications and we should plan for it. So that's point number. Number two, even if you look at life cycle emission, India, 67% energy comes from fossil fuel. Yet a car in India compared to petrol or diesel is cleaner by almost 20%, and two-wheeler is cleaner by almost 50% in terms of life cycle emission. Now, what the Prime Minister has given a target that by 2030, 50% of our energy will come from non-fossil fuel sources. Now, if that is the case, we now have a pathway, and the pathway is you produce green electricity, which is all renewables, and India is doing it, and then you use that energy either through battery electric, which is there, or hydrogen fuel cell. So now we know with the zero emission vehicle, we have a pathway to clean our transport system, which addresses the climate goal, which addresses the public health goals, and it kind of addresses this whole issue of self-reliance, because as we speak, we are hearing stories about huge lithium deposit being found in Jammu Kashmir and Rajasthan and so on and so forth.
Mr. Malhotra, anything you'd like to, I'll come to you next, Mr. Taneja, half a second, but Mr. Malhotra, what is the way forward? We've been talking about this for years.
So the way forward is, in our approach, we have to take hybrid vehicles and flex fuel vehicles, which are a practical proposition. Even today, we don't have a policy to incentivize hybrid vehicles, where the emissions goes down by 50% and also fuel efficiency improves by 40%. Second, just putting all the budget on EV. You know, what is our penetration today? 1% on cars, 5% on two-wheelers, 2% on buses, 55% on three-wheelers, but 90% are on lead acid, which is more harmful than petrol and diesel.
Sure.
So effectively, we have to have a multi-pronged strategy. It has to be technology agnostic, and we have to start it right away. We can't bank on one fuel. The transition path is there. And then this entire business of doing 2027 band, it doesn't come overnight. We have to have phase-wise manner of reduction. It can start even from 2024. Why are we waiting for 2027? But we say everything will switch off on 2027. It's not going to happen. So we need to be more pragmatic, practical, but very, very ambitious. And there should be carrots and sticks from the government side to drive this. That's acceptable.
Mr. Taneja, 2 minutes. Running out of time. Go ahead, sir, with your final thoughts.
Now, Vishnu, I mean, no disagreement. Health has to come first. Environment has to come first. But at the same time, we got to kind of look at it more realistically.
Yeah.
You see, all the narratives on climate, narratives on transition are made in the West. Developing countries absolutely no say in that. We need our own narratives. We need to move there. No doubt about it. I agree with Mr. Bhatt 101%. The question is, how do we get there? Have we built ecosystem, to ban diesel car tomorrow morning? Have we built that? Where is that? So we need to build that first. You see, we need to build the EVs infrastructure, ecosystem, we have to get the states on board, and at the same time, incentivize electric vehicles, incentivize, for instance, LNG trucks that Mr. Sharma was talking about. Let's not forget that we need natural gas as a kind of bridge for next 15, 20 years. 20 years from now, we will have infrastructure, the cost will come down, and we will be in a much better position. So I'm saying transition with a human face, not a forced transition. Transition with a human face, build all this, make these things attractive for the ordinary consumers.
No, I think that's very important, that it cannot be just announced and then vehicles get pulled off the road. But sir, it does require immense political will. We've been talking about bringing down the cost of batteries for years. We've been talking about improving our health for years. But year after year, we fail to achieve our own targets. And now the Prime Minister has laid out a very strong target.
Vishnu, you have mentioned political will by now 7 times. I think what the report is talking about, what the kind of targets already announced by the Prime Minister, and actually India has already committed in Sharm el-Sheikh before Glasgow. We are committed to the global community. So there is no lack of political will. But political will, can you drive your car? With political will alone, can you drive a truck? I'm talking of the practical things. At
What
the
I'm
same
saying
time.
is that there must be political will to start enforcing this in right earnest.
Well, that's being done. That's being done already. Absolutely. But what I'm saying is, build this thing, incentivize it, instead of saying that we're going to ban it from tonight 2 o'clock. Don't do that. Incentivize electric vehicles. Incentivize so that people go for that. Make that
But you see, Mr. Taneja, let me disagree with you slightly. When we talk about it is being done, I think we need to have a reality check on what has been done and what has not been done. It's been mentioned on this discussion that we don't have a scrappage policy. There is still a huge battle on whether BS3 diesel vehicles or vehicles which are older than 10 years old should or should not be on the roads. We've been unable to deal with that. We've been unable to get those cars off the roads. Despite the police prosecution is abysmally low. I'm talking about Delhi. The situation is worse in many other cities of this country.
Absolutely.
So what I'm trying to tell you, sir, is that we may make these laudatory goals, but the fact of the matter is, unless there is political will, and I'm not talking necessarily about the center, state governments, any government, then this will never be done, because this is not going to be popular. By no means.
But I know, you see, I agree with you all this. I'm saying, that's what I'm saying. Make things kind of, attractive for the consumers. People of India, more than the government and you and me, they want clean air. They want electric vehicles because also good economics. So I'm saying work on that at the same time. But there is
and the priority, sir, not just our energy goals. I would suggest the priority is our health first. There are statistics associated now with air pollution and deaths and mortality. The numbers are absolutely crazy.
Who would disagree with you?
Anyway, so I take your point that it has to be, with a humane face. And, there are so many technology solutions.
And with Indian characteristics.
I do believe that the entire argument that this needs to be technology agnostic is also so important. It's not EVs or no versus no EVs. It has to be a hybrid solution based on what we can realistically do. But will we be having this conversation in 2027? Mr. Taneja, you and me and our wonderful panelists over here, where very little has been done? I fear that just might be the case. And I think that's the fear that I wanted to reflect on.
Not really. I think you'll see tremendous progress. It's all driven by technology now.
All right. Okay, well, thank you so much. It's been a fantastic conversation, and we must revisit this and look at more practical solutions in the road ahead.